So I want to talk about what is, in my opinion, the top five best scene in all cinema history, for me at least. It's the ending of Schindler's List, and if you haven't seen the movie, definitely don't watch this. Go watch Schindler's List. It's a great movie. The whole thing is great. But I want to talk specifically about the last scene, and I'm just gonna go ahead and play that scene. This is movie criticism, so that's okay. No copyright. Anyways.
It's Hebrew from the Talmud. It says, whoever saves one life saves the world entire.
I could have got more out. I could have got more. I don't know if I just... I could have got more.
Oscar, there are 1,100 people who are alive because of you. Look at them.
If I'd made more money. I threw away so much money. You have no idea. If I just...
There will be generations because of what you did.
I didn't do enough.
You did so much.
This car. Kurt would have bought this car. Why did I keep the car? 10 people right there. 10 people. 10 more people. This pin. 2 people. This is gold. 2 more people. You would have given me 2 for it. At least 1. You would have given me 1. 1 more. 1 more person. Person stand for this. I could have got 1 more person. And I didn't. I didn't.
So one of the things you notice in this scene is just how, first of all, just how big Schindler seems in comparison to everyone else. Like he's this big, popular, well-liked, rich, wealthy guy, and he just gave up everything pretty much to save the lives of these Jews. And so he gets the ring from, his name is Itzhak, something like that. And it says, whoever saves one life saves the world entire. That's not actually what was written on the ring, but, artistic license. And I think it's kind of important because really what Schindler is thinking in this scene is, well, if saving one life saves a world entire, wouldn't saving even more lives save even more worlds entire? it's basically the movie is saying that really, if you're being honest with yourself, whatever good you do in the world would was never really enough. Basically, this prompts Schindler to have a breakdown because, he has his car, that's the symbol of his wealth. He could have given that away. And he could have given away his pin, which is the symbol of his Nazism, and basically was his ticket to becoming rich. He says he spent so much money trying to save these Jews, but in the end, he really feels like it wasn't enough. So why is this scene so great? Well, like I said, it's just Schindler is this huge towering figure, and he just completely breaks down in front of all these people that he saved. He doesn't walk out triumphant. He doesn't get in his car with his head held high and feels like he really accomplished a great thing. He feels like a failure because he only saved 1,100 lives instead of 1,110 lives or 12 lives. You can even tell that he's tormenting himself when he says that his pin could have saved 2 people, and then he has to go back and think, well, maybe not 2 people, maybe 1 person, it would have been like 1,000 marks instead of like 2,000 marks. Like he's actually going through the calculations in his head like it actually matters. And then comes the big moment at the end where all of the Jews gather around him, and that's like the moment when you will cry, basically, if you're hooked into the movie. So I think this scene really works because it says a lot in very few words, because Liam Neeson is an excellent actor. His just complete emotional breakdown, this huge monolithic figure that was Schindler, is so convincing. And another thing that is interesting is that the ring was made from the dental work of one of the Jews, and it's a pretty well-known fact that in the death camps, the Nazis would extract crowns and bridges and other dental work that was made of gold and then melt it down. So one of the Jews voluntarily did this for Schindler. It was sort of like the only wealth that they could carry with them because it was literally implanted in their tooth. And they gave it to him voluntarily. In the actual story of Schindler, the ring just said thank you, which I think is very interesting because really, what can you say to someone who just saved your life? There's nothing you can really do. In real life, Schindler lived off of the donations from the Schindler Jews. He was never successful. He was never a successful businessman ever again, which I think is also very interesting. And I believe at the end the movie kind of tells you that. So that is my favorite scene in the movie. Yeah, so in the end, I can really sum up this scene just by saying I think that really, if saving one life is saving the world entire, or as Howard Bloom puts it, each life is an infinity, how can you really justify to yourself resting even one moment when you know that people are dying somewhere in the world or people are suffering and you might possibly be able to help somehow? It really kind of cuts to the heart of what is charity and what is heroism, because if one life is so valuable, how can we justify sleeping at night? How can we justify eating and recreating and spending time with our families when we should be out there roaming around trying to find people to save. But really, it's never going to be enough. Schindler, in the end, couldn't justify it to himself that he had let even a few people die because he had failed in some small way. It caused him to have an emotional breakdown. So for us, the average person, how can we allow things to go on that are, people are dying, people are suffering? How can we justify that to ourselves? Do we just not care? Is it human weakness? Or maybe it's something else? And I think that that's really what this final scene is trying to convey. I mean, of course, in the most immediate sense, it's about the Holocaust, but, there were people, there's a lot of stories in the Holocaust about people who lived near the death camps, and they could smell every day the smell of burning hair, and later they claimed not to even know what was going on in the death camps. And I remember in one class where I had a unit on the Holocaust, our teacher actually burned a clump of hair, and you could smell the very distinct smell that it made. And we wondered, what was wrong with those people who lived near the death camps? Why did they not alert the outside world? Why did they not help or try to do something? And in the end, it just comes down to, you can't save everyone. You can't do everything. Sometimes you have to justify to yourself looking away from awful things. Or at least, maybe you shouldn't, but people do inevitably. And Oskar Schindler, in the end, tried to look into the abyss, and he just completely couldn't handle it. Which is why I do believe that this is one of the greatest scenes in all of cinema history.